Frozen na yung... Hello, good morning. I hope you're well rested and ready for a brand new day of knowledge here on the last day of PLAI Congress 2020, our first time online. I am Amy C. Lagrama, head of the University Archives in UP Dalaman, your host and moderator for today. The annual National Congress of the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated is in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines. This year's Congress aims to 1. Explore the roles of libraries and librarians as social catalysts and leaders of reforms, changes, and transformations for the new normal environment. Number 2, re-examine, rethink, and reinterpret the role of libraries and competencies needed of librarians as promoters of change in the new normal environment. And number 3, identify partnerships, collaborations, and communities to strengthen the potentials of librarians and libraries as social institutions proactively involved in the social aspect of the new normal environment. Number 4, understand societal change and be advocates and why and how librarians and libraries should manage change as their professional duty. And lastly, showcase best practices on innovations, changes, reforms, and transformations among libraries and librarians to adapt the new normal environment. We will also have the annual PLAI General Assembly later today. I hope you stick around until the end. We still have some prizes from our sponsors waiting for our winners. Baka kayo na yon. As we mentioned in the previous days, this year's PLAI Congress is in celebration and pursuant to Presidential Proclamation number 837 series of 1991, proclaiming that November is the Library Information Services Month in the Philippines. The celebration focuses on engendering public awareness to the invaluable service that libraries and information centers render. The 30th LIS commemoration has the theme Live Real, which is portmanteau of the word libraries and the acronym REAL, or Real for Relate, Engage, Advocate, and Lead. To our participants here in Zoom, please be informed that you are automatically on mute. Should you have any questions to any of our speakers, please post them in our Zoom Q&A button. Please type in your name, region, and your question for them. Unlike in the previous days, we will have our open forum and awarding of certificates immediately after each plenary lecture. If you want to say hello to your colleagues, please use the chat button. We will not be entertaining questions from the chat box. To our panelists, please do not forget to put your microphone on mute when not presenting. Thank you so much. That is a note to self too. We also have a YouTube channel. Check out PLAI social media pages for the link. All our other presentations will be made available there later. Again, this is the first ever PLAI Congress online with the theme Libraries as Catalysts in the New Normal Environment. Changes, Reforms, Transformations. This event is in partnership with the NCCA through the NCLIS and the National Library of the Philippines. Friends, as a reminder, because we are members of the association, it is our responsibility to be aware of the happenings of PLAI. So please don't forget that our General Assembly later, we have to be there for after the plenary session. Also, the NBOT would like to remind everyone that the General Assembly will only be made available in Zoom. We will not be broadcasting the GA in YouTube. Copies of the minutes and agenda of the meeting will be posted in Moodle. You can check it out there later. All right, haba nung bilin ko. Time to get the ball rolling and let's proceed with our program. Okay, so can you still remember what happened yesterday or what the new knowledge was from our sessions? Simulan natin, no? Um, the first session, we learned of the Swell initiative of the College of Engineering Library, presented by the head librarian, Ms. Sharon Maria Esposo Betan. This program was the result of the need of their community to provide auxiliary services of the Office of the Counseling and Guidance of UP Dalaman. Librarians do not give counseling themselves to the students or to anyone who avails of that services. However, the library and the librarians provide a safe space and welcoming environment for the students to boost their mental health and well-being. She also gave us points of how we can do it ourselves if we want to do something similar for our library. All right. We also learned of how Filipino librarians make sense of social change as presented by Professor Rhea Rowena Apolinario of the UPSLIS. In this talk, Professor Apolinario looked at how librarians today view changes in their milieu and provided us with key insights on how we can become both instruments of change and actual change makers or influencers. In the next part of the program, we saw how the various library associations give us insights and ideas on how we librarians, LIS professors and teachers, and library workers adapt and apply strategies in this new normal. We also learned how our libraries can remain relevant and make our presence felt to the communities during these trying times. We also learned how we can take advantage of existing technologies to continue our service to the public. And we also learned how library associations or how our library association can become our partners in pushing forward the LIS profession and the advocacies that are close to us. I'd like to give a shout out to our library associations who've always been partners of the PLAI Congress. PARL, represented by Ms. Dea Santos and Ms. Judeline Bundok. PATLS, represented by Professor Dan Dorado. MALAP, represented by Ms. Jono D. Arevalo. ASLP, represented by Biboy Cortez. ALPS, represented by Ms. Lucila Raquino. And PLAI STLRC, represented by our very own Dr. Rose Villa Matter. All right. Before I introduce our speakers again, to our participants, should you have any questions for our speakers, kindly post them in our Zoom Q&A button. If you have similar questions to what has already been posted, please upvote that question by clicking on the thumbs up sign so that that question can be prioritized. Thank you. We have three plenary speakers this morning. Our first speaker, Dr. Raymond Pun, is an instruction and research librarian at the Alder Graduate School of Education in the Bay Area of California. He has published and presented extensively on various topics in LIS. He is currently the Information Coordinator of IFLA's Continuing Professional Development and Workplace Learning section. To talk about libraries as community anchors, friends, here is Dr. Pun.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to this presentation. My name is Ray Pan. Pronouns are he and him. And unfortunately, I'm not there with you in person that I would have liked to be, but I'm really thankful for the opportunity to present with you virtually. And hopefully that we'll have an interesting discussion on this topic that will give you some insight on what I've been thinking about and what I've been seeing as well. So the topic is on libraries as community anchors, transforming lives for the better. And if you have any inclinations, you're welcome to follow me on Twitter. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask, and I'm happy to engage with you over there as well. This topic is of interest because it really focuses on how libraries support communities through various ways, right? And how does it improve, transform, and change the lives for the better? At least that is the hope I am thinking about at this moment during such challenges. Before I begin the presentation, I wanted to mention a land acknowledgement here. I'm currently in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, the West Coast of the United States. And I'm living in the unceded Ohlone territory in this region. And I want to acknowledge that the Ohlone group have been here before for many decades, centuries, and want to acknowledge that I, myself, as many others who don't identify with this group, are settlers. And it's important to do a land acknowledgement, particularly of Indigenous groups that have been here before us. Now, we think about libraries as community anchors. We think of all types of possibilities, even during this time. Yet, it's also quite challenging during this time. We're living under extraordinary circumstances, battling a lot of multiple issues at once, particularly if you are thinking of ways to engage with your users, but yet also thinking about how to support your teams and your staff, and for the safety and well-being of all your community members. I really want to switch this topic to a little bit something more bleak and more upfront. We're really living in the days of the future past, which is a title borrowed from the Marvel's X-Men series. They have an episode called Days of the Future Past, where the future is actually pretty jarring and challenging. And now we're living in this time right now, and we need to figure out how do we go forward from here. Now, before I proceed further, I really want to thank the PLAI's invitation. The 2020 National Congress is pretty exciting. I wish I was there to be with all of you, and I hope it becomes a success, a great conference, and lots of fun. As we're thinking about the future that we're living in, we also need to think about ways to work together to make that change happen. I share here a quote from the Honorable Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is an important figure who had passed away in September this past month from the Supreme Court of the United States, Justice. Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. I think this quote resonates with all of us today. How do we work together to lead one another and to ensure that the changes that we want to make today to better support our communities, to transform their lives for the better, matters? How do we get that out there? What do we need to do under these complicated situations? Now, I wanted to share a little bit about myself as we're going through this. I am an academic and school librarian. I've been a librarian for about 15 years. I'm a member of the American Library Association and the International Federation of Library Associations section specifically on the continuing professional development and workplace learning. And I'll show you some of the really interesting things we're doing today to work together and improve our profession for the better. And in addition, I volunteer for the New York Public Library's Career Center. So I am a career coach, and I will share you some interesting anecdotes and observations that our communities, particularly here in the United States, are grappling with. In addition, I am the Vice President and President-elect of the Asia Pacific American Librarians Association, known as APALA, and it is an important group focusing and supporting APIA library workers and communities at large. We are really devoted and dedicated to providing important literary awards, resources, training, and all types of recognitions to engage with the APIA community. So that might include authors, educators, artists, fellow library workers of all types. And it's an honor to serve as Vice President and President-elect for this important association. Now, as my work, I am a school and academic librarian, as I mentioned, and this past few months, we have been scrambling, just like everywhere else, to figure out how to best support remote learning for our graduate students who are already, it is an online program, but more importantly, how do they teach their students online? So some of the students might be 12 years old, 15 years old, or even 5 years old, all different ranges. And my dean had asked me, can you find research on best practices for synchronous learning for kindergarten? So kindergarten are students who are about 5 years old. And we had done a complete literature review. There is absolutely not that much resources focusing on this demographic and how to best support them during remote learning. And hopefully during this time with COVID-19, we are able to learn more about practices that work well for teaching online students in certain grades, so including 5 years old. One other work that I do is information literacy teaching. So in addition to technical services support, research support, and copyright training, I also teach information literacy workshops online and in person prior to COVID-19. And one of the important graphics that I like to show is this graphic, Diversity in Children's Books 2018. Percentages of books depicting characters from diverse backgrounds based on the 2018 publishing statistics compiled by the Cooperative Children's Book Center, School of Education, University of Wisconsin-Madison. And it was the illustrations were done by David Wake in consultation with Dr. Sarah Park-Dahlen. And it's an important reflection of the children's publishing industry in the United States and how underrepresented and overrepresented some groups are. So when we look at this, I share this graphic with all the teachers that I serve who are graduate students in education. And we talk about collections, we talk about reflection, we talk about diversity. And they see 1% for American Indians, First Nations, 5% for Latinx or Hispanic, 7% for Asian Pacific Islander, Asian Pacific American, 10% for African/African American, 27% for animals and others, 50% for white. So it gives you some context here that we are also figuring out how to create and uplift underrepresented, underserved groups into the children's books industry, because when they see more representations of themselves, they are more engaged, they are more feeling that the literature is really for them, right? And we need to keep pushing for that. So having these discussions with my graduate students have been really fruitful and really fun, but also quite challenging because they're grappling with these in their own school libraries and so forth. Now, I wanted to say right here that the future is here, the future is now. Our concerns are not going away, not anytime soon. I think this is an ongoing challenge we need to consider in terms of COVID-19 and the other issues that are going on. Now, if I were there in person, I would probably have done a poll with all of you to ask you, what are your concerns? What is in your mind right now that you are thinking about and thinking of ways to address it? And does it connect with these concerns? COVID-19, economic job issues, climate change, all of the above, something else? I think we're living in really extraordinary times, and as a result, libraries can play a really crucial role in addressing them. But more importantly, library workers, the people frontline, making those decisions, making those actions happen, really need that recognition. And they're doing the work they possibly can to mitigate all the barriers that our users and communities are experiencing. Now, the COVID-19 issues, how are libraries affected? We all know this. Many of them are closed. Many of them are suffering with limited access, limited services, and the focus is really on the safety and impact on our users and staff. So there are existing tensions that had already been there. So prior to COVID-19, there's a lot of funding issues, budget issues, trying to create more community atmosphere in the libraries or show to our funders and our legislators what the libraries are for so they don't decrease our funding and increase our funding. And now with all these issues, we are facing other hurdles to go through. And as a result, we're thinking about the issue of digital equity. I think the issue of digital equity is so important because it connects so closely with the issue of digital divide, the have and have-nots of internet access. Digital equity really frames the conversation of who really has access, right? Who is the one that has the access to the resources? What are their capacities? What are the limitations of these infrastructures? And when we think about that, we need to really think about, for instance, everyone may have access to the internet, right? But do we know the speed capabilities? Are they all just? Are the pricing fixed? Are people in certain groups not having access to certain resources? Now, it's an ongoing question, and I think COVID-19 has really exposed that. And I will show here in the next slide, a graphic from the digital divide, a critical analysis by Shweta Barukal. And this is generally focusing on the issue of digital divide that we're all pretty familiar with as library workers. Issues of technology skills, resources to buy the technology, living in certain areas that provide Wi-Fi access, age limitations, ability, disability contexts, and family background and language. Now, I think the issue that I have been seeing is a lot of it comes down to how COVID-19 has presented itself with complex challenges that libraries are trying to open their spaces, but yet they're still facing issues with digital support and funding issues and so forth. I think the ongoing issue is we need to understand that mobile services can still be limited. So COVID-19 has paralyzed digital access for many. Now, when I had done my dissertation study on the impact of digital divide towards ethnic communities in California, using qualitative study and a phenomenological study, I found out that many of the patrons who were part of the study did not necessarily need their library, did not necessarily need the internet, but they needed their libraries. So when they needed their libraries to get access to the internet, they felt like they were part of a community, they were saving money, and they were able to learn new things or apply for jobs, work on their schoolwork. Of course, there were other constraints and limitations. Library hours could constrain them from using the internet. And also they might not have access to a computer or some skills that they don't know. So there's some still challenges, but for the most part, they felt like the library had given them support. Now with COVID-19, as I followed up with a few of them, they have been isolated, they have been challenged, they have been trapped at home without internet access. So it's a little harder. Some of them started getting phone plans, but it's not really the same, right? They have the phones, but it's so small, you can't do it much with it. And so that's something we need to keep in mind, that just because we have the technology doesn't mean we have the actual capability of doing the same kind of work that we've been doing before. Digital inequity comes in. The question is, who is being affected the most? What can libraries do? And where are our parameters? So we know that in the United States, when the COVID-19 has hit, most of the students tend to be from different ethnic groups. So they might be Black or Hispanic backgrounds. They're students, they are being affected. Public schools are generally more affected than private schools with better funding. What are libraries doing? They are providing hotspots, loaning out Wi-Fi technology devices, loaning out computers, keeping their parking lots open for Wi-Fi, and some are even opening up back to normal capacities in social distancing order. The parameters come down to those questions again. How do libraries ensure community support, but also health and safety, well-being for their users and their staff? It's an ongoing issue. And I think as a result, I think of this chart again, and then I want to add here, access to libraries. It is another issue, right? People having access to libraries and whether that actually provides that support for them, gives or breaks their access to the internet. Now I want to move on to this other related report to share with you. It's the Leadership Brief Report from the urbanlibraries.org. So digital equity in the age of COVID-19. We're now seeing that how libraries are leading change by providing better digital access. There's a lot of really great case studies in this report. I recommend you taking a look at it. I don't think any of them are necessarily really eye-opening. I think all of us are doing as much as we can with the capacity and the funding, but it gives you a lot of really nice case studies to look at and to work through. It's an important study that will continue to be of concern because of the issues we're going through right now. Now, the other issue I want to mention is the privacy matters. Right now, we are all online quite frequently, and at many times our information and our data are being collected, whether we know it or not, browsing through the web. One of the opportunities that COVID-19 has presented is for us to really think about the issues of privacy and how do we integrate a pedagogy like privacy literacy, which is an understanding and awareness of how one's information and data are tracked, shared, and used in an online environment, and how that information can retain or lose its privacy. I have had an opportunity to adopt privacy literacy in my own information literacy program, teaching faculty and graduate students what it means when their information is being collected. How do they minimize that? How do they protect themselves? How do they ensure safety when they're using the internet? The other issue is that a lot of our graduate students are also teachers. When they're teaching their students online, young children, how do they ensure privacy concerns for those young children and their safety? Turning on their cams can be a good start. Ensuring that it's being recorded, letting them know, and letting the parents know. All of these features are so important because it all funnels down to one's privacy and one's access to such content. Like who's having that content? It's usually corporations, and we're trying to minimize that. So I recommend people who are new to this and are interested to look at libraryfreedom.org. It's a really important project. I'm also part of that group, and it's lots of great practices, marketing tools, tips you can use to think about your own privacy and your users and how to minimize invasiveness and all these issues that we're grappling with that are including data collection. So now libraries as communities anchors. It's important that we think about the roles that libraries can do, right, to be that anchor. As I mentioned, some of these include remote workforce training and development. So I have been a career coach virtually supporting users who are asking for job advice, looking at their resume, cover letter on Zoom or on Skype. And these people come from all different backgrounds. Some of them used to be a president of a corporation. Some of them are lawyers. Some of them are dancers or artists. Now all their jobs have shifted. They cannot operate or do the same as before. And now libraries are doing this. They need to, and some of them are picking up career training programs. In the United States, there are about 11 million people who don't have jobs right now because of COVID-19. And the result can face eviction and bankruptcy. Libraries can have a role to partner with other career support agencies or even themselves and provide that support. We're also seeing hotspot services and technology support. Libraries are providing all these issues, all these new technologies to address the issues that posed by COVID-19. So whether that's people applying for jobs, doing their schoolwork, or applying for healthcare online and they don't have the resources, there are public libraries and even academic libraries providing those hotspots so that their users can do their work in an efficient manner under these circumstances. Now, one other area I want to cover is anti-racism in collection and programs. As many of you may have heard, in the United States, there has been some unfortunate and tragic issues with the deaths of Black and African-American people. That includes George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And so this has created an opportunity to have a discussion about racism in libraries, in the collection and programs, but to the focus on whose perspectives are being excluded, whose perspectives are not included. How do we bring those underserved representatives or groups into our collection programs and resources? It's created a lot of good conversation and ongoing conversations that we all need to have. And this country in the United States have been grappling with the issues of racism in a systemic way, and this is an important time to really address it. And so I think libraries as community anchors are addressing these matters ongoing. You know, it doesn't stop, right? It's an ongoing process. I wanted to highlight for folks who are interested, there is an IFLA partnership with the American Library Association webinar called Librarians Supporting Universal Broadband to continue providing essential service to communities everywhere. If you are interested in hearing more about the broadband part, please check it out. It's December 8th, 2020. It's a free webinar. Now, the issue I wanted to also bring up is the emerging voices and perspectives that are limited as a result of what we're seeing now. You know, in the United States, the library profession is about 88% white, maybe 87 now, since the last statistics. But what we're seeing is that there are opportunities to raise and uplift voices, particularly from Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Their perspectives in how the profession has been for them in navigating in those spaces in all types of libraries. Now here I want to share with you some of the resources that you might want to consider looking at and hopefully inspire you to think about ways to create resources and opportunities for underrepresented groups in your communities. The first is the We Here group. You could see the website, it's wehere.space, and it's a really fascinating group that is a supportive community for BIPOC library and archival workers. They have webinars, lots of really good resources, community meetings and groups, and it's free, right? If you identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, it's an opportunity to engage with one another and find support, because it can be a profession that you might experience a lot of barriers as a person of color. And so having the support can help you navigate the spaces. Now, another resource I want to share is the Lib Voices, which is a podcast series, anchor.fm/libvoices. It's a really another cool resource if you're interested in podcasts, listening to people of color's experiences in this profession, from leadership to career development to advice, and how people navigate in those spaces. It's another way to uplift people's experiences in a profession that's predominantly white. Now, and here is the last resource I'm going to share here, WOC and Lib. So it's wocandlib.org. It stands for Women of Color and Libraries. So if you are interested in looking at how intersectionality meets those library spaces, right? How are women of color, so focusing on the gender and racial aspects, their experiences in the profession. This is a really great resource with a lot of really good articles and advice and interviews. And I'm also a contributor, so you can see some of the really important features of library leaders in this profession. It is an open resource that anyone can use and hopefully take back from for their own learning. Now, I do want to mention that there is a really fascinating new edited volume by Sophia Leung and Jorge Lopez McKnight. It's called Knowledge Justice, Disrupting Library and Information Studies Through Critical Race Theory by the MIT Press. It should be coming out soon. It is focusing on the experiences, lived experiences of people of color and how are they understanding library information studies. I think it's going to be a really fascinating book. I have yet to see it, but I know that it is an open access publication, so you can check it out there as well. So I want to give a shout out to everyone who's contributing to that. Now, I wanted to circle back to my work as an IFLA CPDWL information coordinator. So in 2019, we had organized a satellite meeting, so a one-day conference with the Croatian Library Association at the National and University Library in Zagreb, Croatia in August of 2019. And this is by Maha, who took a picture of a group selfie after her session. We are doing a lot of great things. We are trying to find ways to uplift each other during this COVID times. And it's a really important way to bring this community together, our library community. Now, as a result, I do want to show you a short video. It will take about a couple of minutes, and I will present it right now. thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is part of our really exciting opportunity to showcase what the Library Association section can be doing to uplift different opportunities during this extraordinary and complex time. And with that being said, I wanted to also mention some final thoughts here. What's next? I think as we are working towards channeling our leadership opportunities during difficult times, we need to continue to celebrate, and recognize differences, diversity, inclusion, equity in our workplaces. We need to adjust to change and take responsibility to take lead. And we need to forecast ourselves. One tip I always share with a lot of our users who come seeking for coaching advice at New York Public Library, I give them a 10-10-10 model. So this is something you could do. 10 months, well, I should say 10 weeks, 10 months, and 10 years. Think about it. What will happen in your circumstance 10 weeks from now, 10 months from now, and 10 years from now, if you were to have to make a decision about something, you had a job offer or you had some sort of opportunity? What does that mean and how will it affect and impact your life within that time frame? And it's important for us to think about that as library workers, to think about how our lives will be impacted, our libraries, institutions will be changed within 10-10-10 model. So it gives us some ideas on what to prepare and what to expect. And I end this with this quote by Dr. Monica Cox. At the end of your life, true success will be measured by the people you develop, not the things you build. That's the perspective we need to carry, because it is important that our work is relationship-centered. We support each other, we need to uplift each other, and it's a time to think about our users, but the most vulnerable and most marginalized. How do we ensure equity? How do we ensure that our work is representative? How do we ensure underrepresented voices are heard? How do we allow emerging voices from the profession to come out and share their perspective with us? Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Poon. Just a few reminders again to our participants. Kindly post your questions in our Zoom Q&A button, because we won't be entertaining questions in our chat box. Please type your name, the region, and then your question. And if you see a similar question in the Q&A box, just click on the thumbs up sign so that question can be prioritized. I am now opening the floor to your questions, and let us now go to the Q&A box so Dr. Poon can answer them. All right, let me see our Q&A box. Here, to Dr. Poon from Felix Bolocon from Region 8. With the existing technology and media in your place, was there a shift of interest among children reading books or using tablets or other digital devices?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Great. Thank you all again for attending and for the question. I will say that it did vary from time to time. I think the most groups to really look into were children with specific learning needs or learning differences. They were the ones that I think we had to really think about in terms of the infrastructure, what kind of resources will be available. And that also includes our graduate students with accessibility needs and services. So thinking about the role of ebooks, whether they are in compliance to the needs. But in terms of what the question is specifically for children, we haven't asked as much, but I know just from anecdotes that it seems like they might be more prone to using ebooks maybe from their public libraries. And it's also looking at how we can figure out more accessibility tools to support the teachers who are supporting the students. So it kind of like changes from time to time.
All right. In relation to that first question, we have here from Miss Catherine Arapok of the Davao Region Council. What can you suggest about a reading activity for children so that they can start having an interest in books or start visiting the library?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people have done story time online, virtually. Of course, it's all about the capacity, right, for the library
Yes.
workers to do the story time, but also for the children to be able to go online and see it. It might become a family story time, right? Not having the children just left alone and to listen. I know some people have done with bringing in like a dog, if the librarian had a dog virtually, so they could like read to the dog. It's kind of a really a different way of engaging. Certainly, it's all remote right now, at least from what I'm seeing. But in terms of like really activating, engaging, putting on costumes. I've seen some of the librarians do that. They go back to the library and they do the story time there. They have really short sessions, so it's not like the traditional maybe 1 hour story time hour, but maybe something shorter on Zoom. But it has to be giving a feel. It certainly is challenging, but I certainly have seen a lot of creativity coming out. People dressing up as characters or bringing in pets, different types of engagements.
Right. Thank you. There's a question here about IFLA CPD, about your section. If they would like to join that section of IFLA, how do they get around to doing it?
Right. So the section itself is just like the other sections that you have seen under IFLA. There is a standing committee, so a group of people who are elected to serve on uh, the section. But to be a member of IFLA, to be part of it, you can join through different channels, like I had shared in the video, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, just to get a feel, right, and look at the podcasts. But then afterwards, if you wanted to be elected into the section, I think your institution or association, maybe PLAI might be part of it, to get into that, right? And then you could be a member and then get into it. But it's always great. We don't necessarily have an open kind of thing. It's all different channels, and then you have to you also be a member IFLA and then join us. So IFLA also has an individual membership rate or an
Yes.
association member that you can join. But for the most part, you should follow us on the Facebook group as well as the Instagram and Twitter to find out more updates, and then get involved potentially if you want to help with any projects that we might be doing later.
All right. Thank you. I also saw in the chat box, someone posted the link to the section. So if you're interested to know more, you can click on that link. Thank you. All right. There's a question here from Jolo Van Clyde Abataya of the Caraga region. And he said that I found out through reading articles online that libraries in the US are struggling to find full support from the Congress and the ALA. And the ALA is doing its best to pursue its Fund Libraries campaign. Can you tell us more about it? And maybe we can do something similar here in the Philippines?
Yes, I could share that. It is a political effort, right? Advocacy is always communicating with stakeholders to communicate the value of libraries and its impact towards its communities. So whether you want more funding, more resources, or more presence in stakeholders, it's certainly a lot of work. It's been a lot harder because it's all online. And so what I've seen right now is working closely with state level. So there's the federal level, the national level, and then there's the state level. Nationally, I think it's a challenge right now to really secure more funding like we had done previously, but at the state level. So each area in California, for instance, there's a California Library Association. We work closely with our state government to ensure that we can get funding for lunch and learning in the library or some sort of program that we have been supported before. So I think it's a matter of continuously talking to those stakeholders, attending their meetings, working with a committee that's focused on legislation and change, and then really bringing up those advocacy issues. Why is the library so important? So today, right now, we know that libraries are supporting, like I mentioned, job support. So providing career coaching remotely, resume help, stuff like that, technology support. Also, ebooks, right? And digital equity, broadband, all of that access is so important. And it's important to communicate that right now, particularly when funding can be going to different areas and the libraries might not have that presence. And it's important to have those stories and data points to share.
Mhm. All right. There's a question here about from Marianne Salvador of Region 4A. What kind of library sectors or library groups do uh, who ask for your help with regards to coaching? And perhaps
That's
we
an
can start
interesting.
something like that here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's an interesting question. So from my experience, they were people I had coached who are not library in the
Oh,
librarianship. So they were a Broadway star in a famous show called Wicked, or a president of
oh.
a dance company, or a lawyer. But in terms of the coaching program that the Continuing Professional Development Workplace Group, IFLA, the one I'm part of,
Mhm.
they vary. They're sometimes students, sometimes they are mid-level career or early career, and the people who are serving as coaches, they've been directors, they are directors, they are very involved in the profession, and they know how to give really good coaching advice. So certainly we have done one remotely. I'm not part of the project, but I'm part of the communication team, and I could tell you that we even had somebody from the Philippines who served as a coachee, right? And she was able to get that experience. I think you saw that
Wow.
picture in the video. And what was great is that it's open, right? We're trying to do more of this. So hopefully we'll be able to have more data to share. But if you follow us on the IFLA page that you see, we'll be able to give you more
Mhm.
updates there. Yeah.
All right. So we have questions here, but they're more on how we can get you to be involved in PLAI. So I think we'll just contact you later on for that one. And I know it's Thanksgiving there, so we won't be keeping you from your from your family any longer.
No,
So
yeah, it's totally great, and I'm happy to talk to all of you. Connect again offline. I do want to give a shout out to folks who are wondering, people who have been my mentors. So one person is Regina Hidalgo Gong. She's
mm,
from UP, graduate, LIS, BLS 1990, cum laude, and she
oh,
has been so instrumental. She's also from the Philippines and now in the United States at Michigan State University. And
mhm.
so there's a lot of great connections. And I've been to the Philippines before, also because of Regina making the connections
Oh, that's
to
great.
someone like, so it's always nice.
Well, we hope to see you around when it's already all right to travel. So thank you
Definitely.
very much, Dr. Poon. We'll hope to see you in the next PLAI Congress.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will be awarding our certificate of appreciation to Dr. Poon. The certificate reads the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts through the National Committee on Library Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines, awards the certificate of appreciation to Dr. Raymond Pun for being a resource speaker during the PLAI National Congress 2020 and General Assembly with the theme Libraries as Catalysts in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations, held online from 24 to 27th November 2020. Given this 27th day of November 2020, signed by the Executive Vice President Elisa Garcia and the PLAI President Emma Ray. Thank you, Dr. Poon, and see you again soon. Goodbye. All right. Let us now proceed to the next speaker for our program today. With Oxford University Press since January 2017, Ms. Sonia Malotra is responsible for academic print as well as journal and online products for Southeast Asia. She is responsible for operational activities for academic print and journals and online products, developing and nurturing new business opportunities across Southeast Asia, liaising with librarians and various booksellers to understand the market trend and acquisition process across the Southeast Asian market. Before joining the publishing industry, Sonia has acquired valuable 8 years or 8+ years of experience in sales, academic counseling, recruitment, and management in the education sector on completion of Bachelor of Arts from Calcutta University. To talk about University Press Scholarship Online, here is Miss Sonia Malhotra.
Before I begin, I would actually like to take this opportunity to thank the PLAI committee and organizers for conducting this event virtually. Considering the current situation and challenges, I think this is a great opportunity for us to stand with each other and to connect. So thank you so much. Okay, so now moving on. Uh, Before I begin the topic today, I would like to introduce Oxford University Press. Oxford University Press is a department of the University of Oxford. It furthers the university's objective of excellence in research, scholarship, and education by publishing worldwide. As mentioned, our mission is central to our decisions about creating new products, and by being a university press, we are able to invest in publishing programs with this as a focus. This presentation will introduce Oxford Scholarly Project, that is UPSO, Universities Press Scholarship Online. So today's topic is Academic Research Made Easier. In this presentation, I will show you how this project furthers our aim in serving the scholarly community. I will describe how UPSO benefits scholarly research in social sciences, humanities, medicine, bringing together the best monograph works from around the world. In the first part, we will look at the background, why it was created, and how it can serve the academic community, how OUP's platform is uniquely designed for this task. In the second half, we will focus on the detail of the product, facts, figures, and screenshots of the platform. Okay, so what is Oxford University Press Scholarship Online? First of all, to describe the project very simply, this is a collection of academic monographs from some of the best university presses from around the world. The platform enables each university press content to be viewed separately, but also you can search and refine by content across all the participating university presses. The key point is that for the very first time, the site enables detailed searching across the best university presses, including Oxford. Helping the academic community. Why did we create Oxford Scholarship Online? UPSO's roots are with Oxford Scholarship Online. So, in 2003, we launched Oxford Scholarship Online. As you know, OUP is one of the largest university presses in the world, publishing academic monographs. We have attached some of the best authors and have a system in place rooted in the history of OUP to ensure quality publishing. OUP has been very successful. It was a new idea at that time, as the firm combines both ebooks and a database at the same time. And we were the first to do this. So we wanted to put academic research needs first, as this is central to our mission, and created a platform specially designed around research needs. So why a University Press Scholarship Online? I said OSO had been successful. It was a result of OSO's popularity and academic libraries wanting to have more and more monographs online. We decided to extend the OSO website to other university presses. So UPSO launched in 2011 with our first partner, and now today there are 25 partner presses, including OUP. So there are many university presses around the world publishing important research in monograph form, but they are not able to invest in creating their own online publishing. And we saw the opportunity here of how we can help them make their research available to the academic community in the best possible way. And this would also help the researchers who can access these works all in one place, just like a one-stop solution. Here you can see some of the key points on University Press Scholarship Online. As you know, best scholarly publishing. It also provides access to around 30,000 plus titles in XML format across 31 subject areas from 25 leading university presses. So this slide here, this is a list, a summary of the key benefits that academics would get out of using UPSO. First few points, they talk about the first 4 points rather. They're really all about the cross-searching the academic material, okay? Helping authors spread awareness of their own work through UPSO with the author pack and online versions of less easy to find, that is older monographs, still which have a lot of research value. Here is the subject areas which we had spoke about before. These are the subject areas that University Press Scholarship Online covers. And recently we have added around 600 backlist titles were added to OSO, creating 7 brand new subjects. So the brand new subjects are here highlighted in red. You can see they are archaeology, chemistry, clinical medicine and allied health, computer information science, earth sciences, geography, education, and environmental science. And here you may find the partner presses. So this is the list of the partner presses. Here are the key features or user benefits which are reiterated. Here you can see you can utilize some of the best latest technology is utilized here. Users benefit from a very powerful search tool, author-written chapter summaries, extensive hyperlinked footnotes, and more to make the research experience as seamless as possible. The latest scholarship alongside established works. New books from the partners are added 3 times a year, and new OUP books are added every month, meaning that UPSO brings together the latest scholarship on a subject alongside some of the most established works in the field. Here you may see this is a screenshot of the homepage of University's Press Scholarship Online, UPSO. Here you may note that the subject area is central, so it's easy to browse by subject. You may find all the subject areas here. You can see. So it becomes very easier to browse. Okay, so this slide basically focuses on the very flexible way of searching and refining the title list. You can search by all of these ways listed here. And the next slide will illustrate these points. So this shows you how you can view the sub-discipline title list. Note at top right, you can actually download the subject list in both Excel and PDF format for use by the library or faculty. This is a title homepage. We have mentioned the importance of abstracts. So again, important point here is the vast majority are written by the authors of the original work. So this is because this is now built into our commissioning practices. So when OUP commissions a new monograph, by default, the author is asked for permission to include the work in OSO and submit abstracts along with the work. So on the right hand side, you may note that you have the author information, what position and institution they were at when they wrote the work, and links to the web pages, perhaps a faculty website where they have them. This helps make connections amongst the academic community. So here is an example of how you can view all the abstracts of every chapter in a book. So this helps a researcher save time by scanning the entire arguments and summaries of the book. So you can make a note here that on the left, there are more connections are made by linking the editorial selected works. So here we had a look at all the screenshots of the home pages, the sub-discipline, abstracts at chapter level, book level. Now we'll talk about the acquisition model, that is the purchasing model. So we offer a very flexible purchasing option. So basically there are two options available. The titles are available for perpetual access, either by title purchasing means you have the option of pick and choose the title. There's no minimum uptake. And also the second option is titles available for perpetual access in collection purchasing. So you can either buy, in a pick or choose mode or in collection. There are certain special campaigns which OUP is conducting to help support libraries better. So one of the campaigns, which an ongoing campaign, is Clear Your Shelves. So as you know, the universities and schools have shifted to online learning and research. So librarians are rising to the challenge of meeting the users where they are. Oxford University Press is here to help libraries get digital access to the content their users need to support online learning. Clear Your Shelves campaign mainly focuses on helping libraries support online learning by conducting or by connecting the users to the digital content they need. Additionally, we offer even higher discounted prices for those printed titles when you purchase them as a part of any online collection. So you can see that this entire program is available for the below mentioned products. That is Oxford Scholarship Online, University Press Scholarship Online, Oxford Handbooks, Oxford Reference Library, Oxford Clinical Psychology. So this offer actually allows you to extend access to titles you own in print to online and remote users, complete a collection for even deeper savings, make backlist titles available to your users for a great price. Coming to the second special campaign program, which we are having, is a special collection pricing for OSO and UPSO backlist and frontlist. So these are the two campaigns which are ongoing at the moment. So I will leave at the end of the presentation my contact details. So please let me know if you have any queries on both. I'll be glad to assist. So here are the contact details, and also please feel free to ask any questions if you may have. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your valuable time. Stay safe, stay healthy.
All right. I'm now opening the floor to your questions. Just a few reminders again to our participants. Please put your questions in our Zoom Q&A button, and we will not be entertaining questions from the chat box. Type in your name, your region, and then your question. And if you see a similar question that in our chat box or in our Q&A button, sorry, just click on the thumbs up so that it can be upvoted. Okay. Now let me go to our Q&A section to see what we have for Miss Sonia. All right. Miss Sonia, are you there? Okay.
Yes, hi.
Hi. So we have something, an anonymous question here. They want to avail of the University Press online scholarship. How do they get in touch with you?
Yes, I have left my contact details there, so you can definitely, just email me, or you have my phone number as well. So you can just email me for details or for a trial access. We do provide a trial access for a 1 month, so you have the opportunity to get the feel and look of the entire platform.
Mm-hmm.
So just drop me an email so I can revert back to you.
All right. Do you have a representative here in the Philippines or?
Yes, we do have representatives in Philippines,
All right.
but if you would like to get in touch directly, definitely you can.
All right.
We have currently we have LibTech, we have CE Logic. Yeah.
All right. There you go. So if you're interested, they have a local counterpart here, but or you can also go direct to
Yes.
Miss Sonia. All right. I think that's all we have. I think if there are other questions that you can answer, Miss Sonia, maybe you can go to our Q&A box and answer them
Yes.
directly. Some of the
Yes.
questions I cannot broadcast because it depends on some of the factors depend on what you kind of school you are or how many are you interested libraries are you interested to apply
Sure.
with this program. So I
Uh,
think you have to, yes, Miss Sonia.
yes, I can see most of the questions here are mostly about the subscription, like how much is the yearly subscription. So for queries, anything related to yearly subscription or any more details about the product, so please send me an email so I can get back to you with the required relevant details. And as I said, we have multiple agents in Philippines. We have multiple counterparts. It's not only two or three. So please feel free to get in touch with me. So yeah, I will surely respond as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. Now, we will be awarding our certificate of appreciation to Ms. Sonia Malota. The certificate reads, the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines, awards the certificate of appreciation to Ms. Sonia Malota for being a resource speaker during the PLAI National Congress 2020 and General Assembly with the theme Libraries as Catalysts in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations, held online on the 24th to the 27th of November 2020. Given this 27th day of November, signed by the Executive Vice President Elisa V. Garcia and the PLAI President Emma M. Ray. Thank you, Ms. Sonia, and we hope to see you again next
Thank
time.
you so much. My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, bye bye. All right, let us now proceed to our next speaker. Our next speaker is very familiar to many Filipino librarians as he has been here to give lectures and participate in our conferences a couple of times already. Dr. Diljit Singh recently retired from the Department of Library Information Science, University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where he served for more than 19 years. He is currently a visiting professor at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and an adjunct professor at the University of Colombo in Sri Lanka. He serves on the editorial board and committees of three international journals: the IFLA Journal Global Knowledge, Memory and Communications, formerly known as Library Review, and Libri, International Journal of Libraries and Information Studies. Diljit is also active in library associations at the local and international levels. He is the immediate past president of the International Association of School Librarianship, and he has also served on the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions Standing Committees for Asia and Oceania, and for school libraries, He is currently a member of IFLA's Building Strong LIS Education Working Group. To share with us the role of research in libraries and information services in the new normal, please welcome Dr. Diljit Singh.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
good. Because I'm not so technologically inclined, so a lot of things are a little bit new to me. And anyway, good morning, and thank you for that kind introduction, Amy. Appreciate that very much. Are you able to see me? Because I'm seeing my own slides, but not my video. Is that okay?
We can see your slides, sir.
Are you able to see the slides?
No, sir. Can you share your screen with us, sir? There you go. There. Now,
Okay,
there
is
you
that right?
are.
All right, okay, good. Thank you very much. Well, sorry for repeating, but thank you for the kind introduction, ma'am, Amy. It's a pleasure to be here. And good morning to everyone. First, I'd like to thank everyone for joining the session. And I see on the screen that there are more than 1,800 participants who are following the thing. It's an honor, but it's also a challenge to be reaching out to so many people. I also want to thank the organizing committee of PLAI Congress for inviting me for this session. I mean, I would have liked to be there in person to meet with so many of you, but unfortunately, COVID-19 has changed plans for many of us in there. And to those of you who know me, to those who have met me before, greetings. It's nice to meet you again, even though it's virtually. And to those who are meeting me for the first time, hello. I hope this is the beginning of a long-term professional relationship links that we may have and how we can work together for the betterment of society in there. Let me just give you a little background to my presentation. What I'd like to touch on is that we all know libraries are experiencing many challenges and what is leading to what is been termed as the new normal. These changes have an impact on many aspects of our library services, whether it's management or collections and so on. And we need to understand these changes so that we can continue to provide the services that we are doing. And I'd like to put forward that research is one aspect that can help to understand the changes, to take advantage of some of the opportunities that uh, arise, and at the same time to determine some of the appropriate actions that we can take in order to make our libraries better. Now, I apologize for some overlap with some of the previous speakers. I know you've had 3 very interesting days, and there have been many very, very interesting presentations. One of the advantage of being the last speaker or the last but one speaker is that many of the points have already been covered by other speakers. But the disadvantage is that I may be repeating some of the things that others have said. So I apologize if something is so that you have already heard from the other speakers, and I'm saying the same thing, but in a different way. Anyway, what I'd like to do is to share with you in terms of the need for greater research and to use the findings to make appropriate changes in the services that we provide in our libraries, which is the career for most of us. So what I'd like to touch on is what are some of the changes that are taking place around us in the world, leading to what has been termed as the new normal. And I think you've heard that term enough over the last few days and even before. But what I'd like to touch on is what's been the impact on libraries and information services and how research can help to understand some of the changes, to understand some of the needs that are there, and what are some of the actions that we can take in order to continue providing our services as best as we can and perhaps make it even better. What I would like to present on has some relationship to your Congress theme, libraries as catalysts in a new normal environment, changes, reforms, and transformation. Well, the changes that are taking place, we know we have a new environment, and in particularly, we are coming up with a new normal. And the reforms that we need to take place are that libraries need to change, to adapt themselves to the changes and to transform into what is the new working environment that we have to be, what we are facing with. And the point that I would like to sort of touch on in my presentation is research as one of the means to understand the changes, the needs, and what are some of the actions that we can take in order to continue with our services. We all know that there are many changes that are taking place around us: social, technological, economic, political, cultural, And in the last 10 months or so, COVID-19 has perhaps been bringing about the greatest change that is taking place. If we think in terms of some of the changes that are taking place, social changes like families are living apart. You have parents who are here in the Philippines and the children are away in Canada or in some other place in there. But the communication still goes on through the use of social media, whether it's WhatsApp or Viber or some other application that you use. You are still communicating with them. Technical changes are taking place. Almost everybody has a cell phone or some form of mobile device these days. And wherever you go, even if you're flying in an aeroplane, you're still connected. And artificial intelligence, AI, is becoming more and more prevalent in there. So there are many changes that are taking place, economic, political, cultural, and in terms of cultural changes, for example, how do people use their leisure time? In our parents' generation, they would probably be talking to each other or they would be watching television or something else. Today, you find that many people are on their mobile phone, chatting away with somebody, exchanging messages there. And you have got cross-cultural families. Many Filipinos have got life partners who are from another culture. So how are the children coming up? They're having perhaps the best of both cultures or following one particular culture. Well, there are so many different things that are taking place in the world around us. But the one major change that has occurred this year is the COVID pandemic. As of yesterday, worldwide, there have been more than 60 million cases, and more than 1.4 million people have died as a result of COVID. That's sad. In the Philippines alone, you've had more than 400,000 cases of COVID. You have had more than 8,200 deaths, which works out to be approximately 75 deaths per 1 million population. Now, think about it that in a city or in a metropolitan which has got a 1 million population, 75 people have died unnecessarily. It's sad. But this is a change that we are facing now, and this is something that we have to accept. We have to deal with it in some way. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a major impact in many, many aspects. Human lives are being affected. I mean, leave aside those people who are dead, who have passed on, but those who have been hospitalized, those who have suffered in other ways. Economically, there has been a major impact. Socially, there has been major impact. And what is sometimes less given attention is the impact on education, the psychological or the mental health impacts that are being brought upon people. Those are things that are having major impacts on many, many people. And this is something that we have to deal with. If you look at some of the industries, aviation is down badly. And I don't know to what extent Philippine Airlines and Air Asia Philippines have been affected, but I think it is quite serious. Many businesses are down, education is down because students are not able to come, and particularly with the private education institutions, they are really suffering. Hotels and restaurants are really having it bad because the number of people who are coming there are few. Performing arts, that these days there are hardly any of those cultural performances. Even churches, mosques, temples are feeling the effect of the COVID pandemic. Social events are becoming less and less. Sports, and I know in Philippines, you're a sports loving nation. You just cannot go in large numbers to the sporting events. Tourism is down. Many of the tourist popular places are beginning to close down, and people are saying, well, we'll see you sometime in the future when we reopen. Well, in some ways, you may look at it and say that, there have been some positive impacts of it in there. For example, in some places, the environment is cleaner. the air is cleaner, the rivers are cleaner, more and more people are coming together in the family. But it's also leading to financial insecurity. It's also leading to greater stress, psychological and mental health issues. And in some families, domestic violence is increasing because people are in the home too much. And, tempers rise and people resort to violence in some way. There's great uncertainty about the future. We don't know when we'll be able to return to what we have been used to. And in some places, people are beginning to go back to the barangays and to the provinces and saying that, I don't have a job anymore, so I might as well go back and go back to farming or go back to something that I was doing a long time ago. So changes are taking place. And the worst thing is, we don't know how long this COVID pandemic is going to last, how long the restrictions are going to last. Will it be a few more months? Will it be a year? Will it be more than a year? We don't know. So we have to be prepared for it. And while the government and other agencies have taken policy measures to prevent the spread of the disease, it's now common in many places for people to be wearing face masks. I'm working from home, so I don't have to wear it at home. The social distancing, no crowds are discouraged. There are lockdowns in places, the quarantine of infected persons, and many of the other support services that are going on. So the government and the other agencies are trying their best to sort of prevent the spread of the disease. And at the same time, medical measures are also being taking place. There's a lot of research going on the vaccine. There have been some encouraging results from the trials of the vaccines. At least 3 companies have said we have 95% encouraging results. But when is it going to be available? When is it going to be available to the many countries? While it may be available in the United States or in some other place, when is it going to reach the furthest provinces in the Philippines? Is it going to be affordable? What's going to be the price of it? Can the ordinary person in the village afford to get that vaccine? How will it reach? How are we going to make sure that it reaches to faraway places in the islands? How effective is it? The studies show that it's effective against the current strains of the virus, but we know that viruses mutate. How will it be effective with the other strains, of the new strains of the virus, the mutated strains? We don't know. And are there going to be any side effects? Are there going to be side effects on the elderly or those who are already sick with some other thing? We don't know. So there are many aspects that we have to consider in terms of the changes that are taking place and what will come about in there. So what's been the impact on the libraries? Well, I think you've heard these enough over the past 3 days. So I won't go into the details. But I think we just have to consider the last 2 points that I've mentioned in there in terms of serving the people in isolation. People are not able to come to the library now. So how do we serve the people who are out there? What do we do to help them in there? Well, this is something that we have to consider. And the other thing that we have to consider is that we're always thinking of the users. We're always thinking of the library patrons. What about the librarians themselves? How are they being affected? What is the state of their mental health? How are they adapting to these changes that are taking place in there? Previously, they would come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and go back at a certain time. Well, now when you have to work from home, when you've got other pressures being faced, what's happening? And previously, if you found that some staff member was perhaps lacking in motivation or not in the kind of behavior that you wanted to, you would be able to talk to the person very easily. Now you don't see the person. So how do you know what the person is going through? That's a challenge that we are facing. At some point, libraries will be open, but what is going to be the normal when libraries reopen? We really don't know for sure. We're talking about limiting the number of users, limiting the concentration of users, promoting hygiene, and so on. But there will be changes that are coming about. And what are these changes? Some of these are open to speculation, but that's very likely to become the new normal in there. So what is the new normal? I think you've heard this enough, right from Sir Michael Pinto and early presentations to the other speakers in there. There are many changes, many things that we're going to have to adapt to, and it's going to take some time before we can go back to what we were used to in 2019 and before. So it's going to be something that's we have to get used to. It will affect libraries. And what worries me, and perhaps to you, is it can have an effect on the very existence of libraries. Could it be that libraries become obsolete? I hope not, but it is one possibility. Because libraries, when we come into the new normal, we're going to be at the crossroads. Today's libraries are appreciated, people do make use of them, although sometimes we hope that it could be more. Tomorrow's libraries, what will they be like? Will they be successful? Will they be something valued even more than what they are today or yesterday? Will they continue as they are, what we have been used to? Or, I hope not, will it come to a stage where they say, oh, okay, we don't need the library anymore, let's close it down. And 2020, maybe 2021 may be the year where libraries are starting to become smaller and smaller. And in 2030 or 2040, your children will look at it and say, Mama, what's a library? Oh, how come we don't have it nowadays? Oh, it's something that, we read about it in the books, we see it in the pictures in there. Well, I hope it never happens, but it's a possibility that can happen. Why? Because we are at the crossroads. Today, we need the library. Colleges and university students, faculty members need the library. Members of the public need the library. Organizations need the special library. So it's important, it contributes to our success. But it could be tomorrow that people look at it and say, well, we survived 1 year without using the library during COVID-19. Do we really need the thing? And what's worse, we have budget constraints. We don't have enough money, so we need to cut out something. And what can we cut out? Well, let's cut down on the library. And a number of people are beginning to get that impression. Well, we can get everything on the internet. We don't need the library. I don't need to go to the library. I can find it on my cell phone. I can go to the library and get what I want in there. And you had the presentation on artificial intelligence. People are saying that, oh, well, we can replace the librarians with technology. Reference librarian, yeah, we don't need him or her anymore. We talk to the machine and the machine can give us answers in there. Library staff to shelf the books, no, we don't need them anymore. We've got robots that can do the job in there. We don't need librarians anymore. Cataloging books, oh, well, it's just easy. Just download the information and you have it into your database. We don't need the library anymore. We don't need the librarian anymore. So if we come to that stage, somewhere along the line, somebody up there is going to start thinking and saying, we really don't need the library. Let's kind of close it down. Let's forget about it in there. We've got other things that we need to do. It's a possibility. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's up to us to prevent it from happening in there. Because the changes that we are experiencing lead to problems and threats, but they also create opportunities. And I'm an optimist. To me, it's an opportunity. It's opportunities to do things in a different way, to innovate, to learn, to grow, to improve, basically to make things better than what they were before. So Changes are taking place, whether because of social, economic, technological, and so on, but at the same time, because of COVID, but it's also an opportunity to do things differently. I believe every change is an opportunity to do something differently. So yes, there are changes taking place around us, but we can do some things differently. And this is where we must take advantage of the opportunities that exist around us in there. Take advantage so that libraries can become even better, libraries can become even more valuable in there. How do we take advantage? Well, one of the things we need is new knowledge and new understanding. And that new knowledge and understanding comes in many ways. One of them is research. Research can provide some answers to the challenges, to the problems that we are facing so that libraries can become even better and better in the next years to come. What is research? Well, I think everyone has gone through this during the LIS education program, so I will not explain it in detail. These are textbook definitions or traditional definitions of it. But in simple terms, research is basically an organized and systematic method of finding answers to questions. It's an organized way because there's a plan, structure, or method that we use. It's a systematic way because the process is broken up into steps that lead to certain conclusions. And we find answers to questions that are being faced, to relevant questions that are being faced. Research can help us to find questions to the answers that we are being faced with. When I try to advocate research, I'm sometimes told, "Sir, I'm a librarian. Why do I need to get involved with research? My job is already heavy enough. I've got so many things to do in the library. Why do I need to get involved with research?" Well, I think librarians need to be involved with research in at least three different ways: consumers, collaborators, and producers. Librarians need to be consumers of research, librarians need to be collaborators with research, and librarians need to be producers of research. As consumers of research, you can be reading. Every library has got lots of books and journals and magazines and papers and databases that you can access. Listening to presentations, attending congresses like these. It's a good way of knowing about research, consuming research. You can also be a collaborator in the research process in there. You can be doing research with others, whether they are librarians or whether they are scientists or whether they are sociologists or whether they are psychologists or whether they are educators. There are plenty of opportunities to join forces with them to do research. Librarians and teachers, librarians and psychologists, librarians and sociologists, many, many opportunities for research that are there. But I hope that librarians themselves can also be doing research. Librarians as producers of research. I think this is something that is very much needed in there. And I hope that more librarians would get involved in research, whether as a producer, whether as a collaborator, but certainly as a consumer. Research is important. What are some of the kinds of research that we have? Well, basically, we've got scholarly research, which is for the development of the knowledge base in library and information science. But we also need research and management for the planning and development of our libraries, for marketing, for evaluation, and the many other things that we do in our libraries. Scholarly research, yes, it's important for those who are doing the master's degree or are doing or planning on doing their doctorate at some point. Yes, it will come out as a dissertation or as a thesis, and certainly you can write a journal article. The Philippine Journal of Library and Information Studies has sort of been revived and is looking for articles. Conference presentations, whether at PLAI or PASLI or PAAL or many of the other conferences that you have, there are opportunities to present and share your research. But even within the library, there is a need for research and planning, in understanding the user's needs, in understanding what kind of collections and services that we need to have, how do we organize our collections and services for efficiency, and to find out, are we effective? Are we efficient? How are we doing in terms of the services that we provide in there? So basically, we need to be involved with research to find answers to questions, to find data or facts to analyze a problem, to find solutions to problems, and many of the other things in there, in addition to developing or advancing the knowledge base in library and information science. So we need to be involved with research. You want to bring about a change in your library, you want to start a new project, you want to start a new program. Well, research can help you by strengthening your arguments, providing information, and showing the benefits that you have. You can also use research to confirm or to challenge some of the assumptions and beliefs that people have in there. You can use research to provide statistics, anecdotes, examples to support a case. And in terms of financial constraints, you can use research to offer cost-benefit arguments that yes, you're going to require so many pesos to carry out a program, but what's the benefit of it in there? This is something that research can provide you and make a more convincing argument to those who are providing you with the money. What is the research that is needed to be done in the LIS area? Well, I think there's many areas for management, decision-making, assessment, development of knowledge. But I think two aspects that we need to give some attention to is the research on the role of libraries during and after the COVID pandemic. What is it that libraries need to be doing at this time when we are experiencing the pandemic? And what do libraries need to do, or what can libraries do once the pandemic is over? These are also areas that are open, that are important for us to make our decisions. When we think in terms of, what are the research that we need for management, well, we need to know who are our users, who are the users of our programs and services. And more importantly, we need to know who are the non-users. If you tell me that you get so many visitors per day or per month, well, what's your target population? And what is the percentage of those who are not using the library? Why do they not use the library? Well, this is an area that's open for research. You could also do research in terms of what is your collection? How is your collection being used? How is your services being used? For example, if I were to ask you what percentage of your books have not been borrowed at least once in the last 5 years, would you be able to provide an answer? You may be able to, but why have they not been used? That's a challenging question, but this is where research can help to provide some answer in there. So that would then help you to decide what are you going to do with this underutilized books that you have in the library. Research for assessment and evaluation, who are our stakeholders? Who is it that feel that the library is important to them? What are the costs associated with libraries, direct costs, indirect costs in there? And I think something that we need to be able to convince people, especially during times of financial constraints, what are the benefits of libraries? Yes, we provide access to books, we provide access to databases, we provide services, reference services, and so on. But how do these things really benefit the people? And more importantly, how do we translate these benefits into pesos? You are spending so much of money in paying the salary of a reference librarian. what's the benefit that he or she is providing? How do you measure that in terms of pesos? Well, this is something that we need to be looking at a little bit more clearly if we want to convince the need for the library in the future. Research on the role of libraries during this pandemic. Who are our users, who are not users? What are their needs? What are the challenges that they're facing? What can we do to provide more effective services to those people in there? We are discouraging people from coming to the library. But if we say that the library is important, how do we then provide the services to them? What can we do to continue to ensure that the library is important to them? Who are the people that we are reaching out and who are the people we are not reaching out? That's something to look into. We also need to look in terms of what is the role of the libraries once the pandemic is over. Something that the policymakers and the people who are providing you with the money are going to ask. Why should libraries continue to exist? And if they exist, what is the new library going to be like? And people at the top, the president's office, the senators, the congressmen, and so on, they tend to look at it, everything or many things in terms of pesos. So what's the cost benefit of providing library services? We're providing you with so many million pesos every year. What's the benefit of it in there? And somebody who's got an economics background in their team will say, what's the ROI? What's the return on investment on libraries? We're giving you so many million pesos. What are we getting back? How do we contribute towards it in there? Well, I think one of the areas that we need to look into is, how do libraries contribute to development? And I think Philippines, like in many other countries, subscribe to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Of the 17 development goals in there, first one is no poverty, clean water, and so on. So how are libraries contributing to reducing poverty? How are libraries contributing towards zero hunger? Well, if we can show through evidence that libraries are contributing towards reducing poverty, contributing towards reducing hunger, and the other 16 other goals that we have in there, well, that's a good reason for libraries to continue to exist. So there are many, many aspects of research that we can look into, and I hope that you get involved in that. So questions like these, we need answers. We need to understand the changes. We need to understand the needs, because this is what's going to be in the new normal and perhaps beyond. So I would urge every librarian, every participant at this PLAI Congress here to get involved with research, whether as a consumer, whether as a collaborator, or whether as a producer of research. I hope that you will get involved in some way or another in that. So basically what I've been saying in the last 25 minutes or so, if there's one message that I would like to convey to you, that you, as you go back to your libraries and homes after the Congress today, that the new normal will be different. And while it brings challenges and changes, but there are also opportunities. And we want to be able to take advantage of those opportunities in there. How do we take advantage of them? Well, we need directions, we need actions, and research can help to provide some of the answers in there. So I hope that as many librarians as possible will get involved with research, whether as a consumer, whether as a collaborator, whether in doing research. Do whatever you can, document it, publicize it, and what I hope is that it will help libraries to succeed and flourish and become even better in the months, in the years ahead to come. So thank you very much for listening. If you have questions or comments or suggestions, we can discuss it during the open session. Feel free to contact me after the presentation too. If there's something in particular that you would like to discuss. I'm sorry I did not put my contact information in here because I don't want to be receiving all kinds of messages in there with on my phone or on my email. But certainly, if you need to contact me, please do get in touch with the Congress organizers, and they'll be happy to share my contact information with you. So once again, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Take care. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. Your talk raised questions about our role, the librarian's role in the bigger picture in the midst of this pandemic. And I hope that us librarians are going to be ready or are already preparing or have the means to face these challenges through research, of course. Okay, to our participants, please type your name, your region, and then your question in the Q&A section, as we will not be entertaining questions in the chat box. If you have a similar question to what has already been posted, please upvote that question by clicking on the thumbs up sign so that question can be prioritized. All right, I am now opening the floor to your questions. Let me go to the Q&A box. Hold on. It won't let me go to the Q&A box. There you go. All right. We have one here, an anonymous question. According to this question, my quote, there's a quote: "The only constant thing in life is change. In these times of great uncertainty, what can you advise for the registered librarians who lost their jobs because of COVID-19? Do you think they need to adapt change for themselves, like engage into a new nature of job, even if it's truly unsure, they can look for a job at this time?"
Thank you. It's an interesting question, and I know it's sort of something that I touched upon, that the insecurity that we have, that some librarians may have lost their jobs, some of them may lose their jobs. I hope not. I pray to God that your job will always be there, even though you may have to take a small salary cut. But yes, you are right in that change is a constant, and we need to be aware of some of these changes in there. But I believe that librarians are among the best prepared to take advantage of the changes, simply because most librarians are information literate. We teach others information literacy. We ourselves are information literate. So if we are losing our jobs now, or if we are at risk of losing our jobs now, is there some way in which we can change a little bit so that our job will still be important? It may be a small 10, 20-degree change, or it may be a 180-degree change. I don't know, depending on your situation, depending on the circumstances in there. But I think if you are information literate, you are aware of what are the changes that are taking place, what are the aspects that are becoming less important now, and what are the things that are becoming more important. If we look at it in terms of the businesses that are going on now, the businesses, for example, the restaurants and the hotels and the tourism businesses are going down. What are the businesses that are going up now? The most profitable companies, I don't know about Philippines, but the most profitable companies in Malaysia right now are the ones that are manufacturing face masks and rubber gloves. Their share prices have skyrocketed. So is there an opportunity in there some way? Yes, there are going to be changes. I know of a family where the son was wanting very much to become a pilot in the airline. The parents had saved up money for the son's pilot training. Now that they're looking at it and saying, airlines are closing down, forget about becoming a pilot. So what can you do? Well, this is going to have an effect in there. I think this is something that we need to be aware, look around, what are the changes that are taking place in there. In the immediate surroundings that I have in here, we know that many parents are facing financial difficulties and they're going to have to go out and look for different kinds of work. So I told somebody the other day, is there something that you can do to help take care of the children or to take care of the elderly in the homes where the parents are not able to, but you are able to provide those services in there? So there are opportunities in there. So I think it's a matter of looking around, seeing where there are opportunities. There will be changes that are taking place. For example, and I don't mean to be referring to anyone at any institution in particular, but those colleges and universities that are offering tourism and hotel management and programs like those, they're going to go down because hotels are not going to employ people. So if you are thinking of going for a hotel management or tourism management program, uh, the job prospects are not going to be very good, very big. So you need to look at somewhere else. So basically, what I would like to say is that look around for opportunities, be prepared to change.
Thank you very much. I hope that answered the question. So, laban lang po sa nagtanong. Let's now go to another question from Miss Marilu Passion. I know she's from CAR, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, according to her, the quote, we would like to come with the research that is relevant to our region, and we would love to collaborate with you, Dr. Singh. May I know if you are open for collaboration, research collaboration for librarians in their area?
Yes, I'm open to help in terms of collaboration. I mean, officially I've retired, but I'm still keeping myself active. Yes, I'm happy to help out anywhere. I still do it. I mean, I'm helping a couple of doctoral students with their research. I'm helping others who are wanting to do research, but you know best what are the needs in there. I'll be happy to advise you with it. And these are opportunities. These are things that we can do online. I don't have to be in the Philippines. You don't have to come to Malaysia, and all it needs is a Zoom session or a Viber session, and we can sort of communicate. So, short answer, yes.
Thank you. Please take note, Miss Passion. All right. Another anonymous attendee has a question here. This person is a school librarian in a public school with obviously no sufficient budget for improvement. What specific study do you suggest that they do so they can make their school library probably presentable for the principal and to DepEd, Department of Education?
What kind of studies you can do? I think you have to convince a principal and DepEd that the library is important. So what can you do to show that the library is important? Going beyond just the physical, making it nice and colorful and having nice displays in there. But what is the benefit that the library is getting? I think there are many studies that you can do. You can look at studies that have been done in other countries or even within the Philippines itself, which show that the school library is important for academic achievement. The school library is important for uh, recreational reading. The school library is important in many ways. But in your own locality, in your own barangay or in your province in there, what are some of the challenges that you are facing? Well, how can the library help in overcoming those challenges? If your students graduate with better grades, there is a better likelihood of them finding a job or going on into a good college or university, getting into a good profession and to be helped in there. So that is one of the things that you can point out without actually having to do the research. But other kinds of research that you can do in terms of if your school has been in existence for a number of years. I mean, if yours is just a new school that is 1 or 2 years old, then that may be challenging. But if your school has been there for 15, 20 years, can you get in touch with some of the alumni, some people who have graduated from the school and say, you know, can you help us in some way? Can you help us to promote the library? Can you help us to promote not the physical library, but what the library services have done in terms of providing reading materials, in terms of helping you to graduate, in terms of some of the benefits that you're provided in there. And in wanting to convince the principal and dep ed and perhaps higher up congressmen up there that you need the funds for it in there, get evidence, get support from the parents, get support from the students. I mean, if every parent were to write a letter to the congressman or congresswoman, especially just before elections, I'm sure they'll pay attention to it in there, that the library needs money. With due respect to the politicians, I mean, I'm not in any way putting them down, but they have many things that they need to decide on. But one thing that most politicians want is, how do I get reelected next time? So how do I get reelected is, I need your support. You need my support. We
Yes.
need your support. So let's work towards mutual benefit in that. So many, many, many opportunities for research that you can do.
Thank you. That was a good question. It looks like you've had some um, contact with politicians, huh?
Yes.
All right. Here's an interesting question. Um, it Anonymous attendee from Region 6. Engaging in research can only flourish if a research culture is developed among librarians and LIS faculty. Based on your experience in this field, what do you suggest we should do to make this research culture happen in the Philippines? Who should take the lead?
Who should take the lead?
Mm-hmm.
The person is asking the question. Because somewhere along the line, somebody has got to take the lead. And if we can be waiting for others and say, oh, DepEd should do this, or the LIS department should do this, or the library school should do this, or UP, or the other library department should be doing this, and so on. But somewhere along the line, somebody has got to take the initiative in there. And if we really want to move forward, we have to do it ourselves. It may be a small step that we take. It may be just doing a small project ourselves, or talking to other librarians, or talking to somebody at this PLAI Congress or the PAAL Congress or PASLI Congress and say, can we get involved with some kind of research project in there? I think it's important that we make a start of it in there. I believe Mother Teresa was well known in the Philippines. And she had a saying that everything starts with one. Even when you're counting, you start with one. So you have to start with one project, you have to start with one person, you have to start with one step that you take forward in there. And Confucius had a saying that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, one step. So it's a long journey to develop a research culture, but don't wait for that research culture to develop. You can do it yourself. You can take the first step. You can take the one step of it in there. And I believe there's plenty of help that's available among the PLAI members.
Yes. And I think we have time for one more question. This is an anonymous attendee as well. I think he's pursuing his MLIS. What advice can you give to those graduate students who are currently doing their research but are losing focus due to the demands of work and at the same time the pandemic?
I think that's a matter of balancing what you're doing in there. I know some people have got family commitments, they're studying at the same time, they've also got work commitments in there. It's not easy, and I respect you for being able to do so many things at the same time. But I think if you balance your time, if you manage your time well, set your priorities in there, you will be able to do it in there. I don't know the the requirements and the rules of the particular university where you are doing your MLIS. Is there a time frame for it in there? Because if your target was to finish it by 2020, it's not a big deal if you finish it in 2021. If you extend it by 6 months or 12 months, if your university allows you to do it, it's all right, because we are facing challenging circumstances in here. But don't lose focus of it, because it's important that you do finish your research project, you do finish your dissertation, so that you can graduate and go on to a better job in there. If you don't finish a thing, unfortunately, the rules of the universities are such that you need to finish everything. Even if you have finished all your courses, you've got the best results in there, but you don't submit your research report. They don't give you the degree, you don't get this thing in there. So you have to finish it. It doesn't matter if it takes 3 months longer or 6 months longer or even 12 months longer, but aim to finish it at some point in there. And get help if you need to.
Thank
So
you.
good luck with your program.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. I remember one person who told me that I will finish my degree on time as long as it takes, no matter how long it takes.
Exactly. Good.
So I don't know if she finished her degree already, but I hope she did. Oh, and I also remember one person who said, or it was an African proverb who said that if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go further, go together. So if it's possible to get a research collaborator,
right,
you can do that.
Yes, very true.
Thank you, Dr. Singh.
You're welcome.
All right. Let us now go to the Certificate of Appreciation. The certificate reads, the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines, award the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Diljit Singh for being a resource picker during the PLAI National Congress 2020 and General Assembly with the theme Libraries as Catalysts in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations. Held online from the 24th to the 27th of November, given this 27th day of November 2020. Signed by the Executive Vice President Elisa V. Garcia and the PLAI President Emma M. Ray. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And we hope to see you in the next PLAI Congress.
I look forward to. Thank you.
All right. Again, friends, as members of PLAI, it is our responsibility to be aware of the happenings of the association. So don't forget that our General Assembly is later today after the plenary session, and also the NBOT would like to remind everyone that the General Assembly will only be made available in Zoom. We will not be broadcasting the GA in YouTube. Copies of the minutes and the agenda of the meeting will be posted in Moodle, so you can check it out there later. The last time I heard, we've already reached our capacity in Moodle, so maybe we can just share, pwede ba yun, tech team, to share our files? Anyway, we'll see. Okay, and later also when you attend the GA through Zoom, we will be sharing the text of the GA. Agenda and the minutes. All right. Before we go on to our next plenary speaker, let us hear from our friends from Airbooks Corporation.
Developed for teachers and students, Britannica School is a comprehensive digital learning environment aligned to the curriculum. Supporting age-appropriate levels, it's a visually engaging, resource-rich, and highly interactive experience. Always up-to-date and factually correct, content covers the core subject areas of English, history, science, and maths. featuring ebooks, interactive lessons, encyclopedia articles, journals and magazines, games, study guides, and other helpful resources. Britannica School is designed to encourage discovery, critical thinking, vocabulary skills, and the sharing of information and ideas among teachers and students. Providing for differentiated learning, students of all ages and abilities can select a reading level based on their comprehension proficiency, aided by read aloud functionality, variable font size, and double-click dictionary. The new Lesson Plan Builder makes it easy for teachers to create and share content with their students and colleagues. Students can also add, tag, and share content with each other through the My Content feature. Accessible from any device, Britannica School adjusts to any screen size dynamically and delivers your content through fast and responsive web design. This is a resource that directly addresses the complex teaching and learning needs of today's educators and students from pre-K to 12 in the classroom and at home. Our dedicated support specialists will oversee the implementation process and provide the necessary professional development.
Since its inception more than 20 years ago, Britannica Academic has continued to evolve with technology and the needs of academic libraries around the globe. Always up to date and factually correct, features include insightful encyclopedia articles, EBSCO journals and periodicals, primary sources and ebooks, World Data Analyst, Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary and Thesaurus, the Year in Review, and other research tools that provide a variety of reliable sources students need to consult when conducting thorough research, and all from the one site. This latest upgrade provides today's students and researchers with a fast, convenient way to access high-quality, comprehensive information, including the new Integrated Article page, providing access to media, related content, citations, and topics all on one page. My Research Centre. Easily create, edit, organise, save and share your favourite content. Support for ESL students. Discover multi-language support tools with Translate, text-to-speech and double-click dictionary and thesaurus. Article history allows you to track every update. Accessible from any device, Britannica Academic adjusts to any screen size dynamically and delivers your content through fast and responsive web design. Britannica employs a dedicated staff of in-house professionals and has an extensive network of Nobel laureates, scholars, advisors, historians, and content specialists who ensure that Britannica Academic is the #1 online general reference of its kind, trusted, cited, and relied on by the world's best institutions. Created specifically for public libraries, the new Britannica Library provides your patrons with access to 3 sites in one. From the homepage, patrons can easily search one of 3 age-appropriate levels to discover the very best material for young children, all the way through to adult learners and information seekers. This is the one resource that everyone can use and everyone can trust. Continually updated and expanded, search results feature encyclopedia articles, current journals and magazines, ebooks, multimedia,
and ships were the only way to get across the Atlantic,
and a myriad of other resources, including the new My Content feature, that allows patrons to personalize, add, and share their favorite content. Using Britannica's unique research tools, patrons can explore new subjects and biographies, discover the world around them with country research and compare tools, review how-to documents for presentations, book reviews, research papers, and science reports. This resource is ideally suited to support your ESL patrons and after-school programs for all ages and abilities. Aided by read aloud, variable font size, and a double-click dictionary. Whether using a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone, Britannica Library's design dynamically adjusts to fit your screen for optimal viewing.
Thank you, Airbooks. Our third speaker for today is the epitome of a strong and independent woman. Dr. Reza Alenzuela is an associate and adjunct professor at Central Philippine University School of Graduate Studies, teaching masters in library information. She was the senior law librarian of the University of the South Pacific, Emalos Campus, Republic of Vanuatu. Reza was a postdoctoral fellow at the Kyungpook National University in South Korea, and she graduated with a Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Iloilo and a Master's in Library Information Science, specializing in Archives Administration from UP Diliman. Yay! Prior to joining USP, she was an expert manager of Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan and was the director of Thomas Jefferson Information Center, U.S. Embassy, Manila, from 2007 to 2013. Her researches focus on advocacy, open access, information literacy, the UN 2030 Agenda, and LIS education, and has been one of the editors of the book Internationalization of Library Information Science Education in Asia Pacific. She recently completed developing the Competency Index for Librarians in Vanuatu and a program on cultural competency development of Van librarians funded by the American Libraries Association. Currently, she is a volunteer consultant in academic libraries in Western Visayas region of the Philippines and is working with the Association of Theological Education in Southeast Asia in developing virtual reference services. To talk about virtual assistants in libraries, here is Dr. Reza Alenzuela.
Maayong adlaw sa tanan. I am Reza Alenzuela. I'm a faculty here at Central Philippine University School of Graduate Studies in Iloilo City. As most of you may have known, Iloilo City would have been the venue for PLAI 2020 Congress. With or without the pandemic, the Congress will go on. And so today I'm presenting with you a very important topic related to what we are currently experiencing right now. Since I've been into libraries, academic libraries to be specific, I'll share a bit of my personal observation and some social media analytics that I have gathered related to virtual assistance in learning support and online engagement as academic libraries' response to COVID-19 pandemic. So as we all know, virtual reference service has taken a new level of engagement as the global pandemic changed the course in teaching and learning. This is a narrative on how virtual reference services has engaged the users in academic libraries here in Western Visayas. And I will also be, just be specific, I'll be describing first the development of virtual reference services And the birth of this virtual assistants played an important role in supporting learning and research in selected academic libraries here, as I mentioned, in Western Visayas. Also, I'll be discussing about strategies that they have embarked upon in creating engaging learning support using virtual reference assistants as image of the library. I'll be comparing the engagement of different academic libraries in the online platform. And lastly, I hope that I could provide you insights on the value of this virtual presence and the role of libraries and librarians as social catalysts driving transformation in the new normal. So as we all know, the coronavirus pandemic continued to be a global crisis as cases continue to increase. As of 27th of October, there have been more than 43 million confirmed cases and more than 370 confirmed cases here in the Philippines. Regardless of what is the number of recovery, although these are just cases cumulative record, but still having this number is really significant. That's still alarming for everyone. And this indomitable challenge made various sectors in the society, including the academe, to adapt to the changes. So roughly, just to give us an idea or as baseline data, according to the Commission on Higher Education, there are more than 2,000 higher education institutions in the Philippines, and more than 90 of which are in Western Visayas that spreads across Aklan, Antique, Iloilo City, Guimaras, and Negros Occidental. So roughly, academic libraries also have the same number as it is a requirement that every educational institution or higher educational institution can only start its program if there's a functional library as an indispensable component. So academic libraries also created new and innovative strategies to continue learning support services in the new normal, as we may know, as we all know. I'd like to highlight first some of the important things that has been predicted by some key scholars in library and information science. One of those is Christopher Cox, who in May has written about the significant ways academic libraries will shift in terms of collections, services, spaces, and operations as a result of the pandemic. So some of those that he's mentioned that's relevant for us are self-service models and virtual alternatives, support for online teaching and online research that has become more important for library function. The library website is a virtual front door, and everything, if you have noticed, is becoming electronically driven. And when we talk about things that becomes electronically driven, there goes as well the rise of open content or open educational resources, to be specific, as we are providing support on online teaching and learning. And lastly, in the part of the librarians, there's a need for continuous learning and development. Taking a leap to these virtual alternatives, I have, as I've mentioned, I've picked some examples from different libraries, and being here in Central Philippine University, I'm fully aware of what has been going on, specifically in Central Philippine University. So take, for example, Henry Luz III Library here. Actually, they had been having an existing website for quite some time. But since the pandemic, everything has been transformed. And one of those initiatives that has been done and has been given a rebirth is the library website. I give this credit to the library, the librarians here in Henry Luz III Library, because one or two of them has worked on this for 2 weeks only. Imagine the hard work that they did just to work it out. And because our goal here is to make our library presence rival Google, Amazon, Shopee, Lazada. which means that it should be easy to use, it must be comprehensive, attractive, and engaging, and relatable, and responsive to the needs of our users. Another example of that is Capiz State University. It's another province here in Iloilo, where a significant change has been done in their library. And although actually the library webpage has been existing for quite some time, but it has played more important role as libraries face the challenges in the new normal. So the library page became the virtual front door. If you notice this slide that I'm showing, they actually have other platforms, like there's the photo gallery, which is in Flickr. They also have Facebook page as another avenue. And they even have a reference portal for research. But basically, all these things are put together, aggregated in the library website. Another thing that is important to note, as I have mentioned from the beginning of my discussion, is how traditional library services were forced to adopt to the digital platform to embrace innovation. And as I've mentioned, academic libraries in Western Visayas remain with traditional services considering the ICT limitations before. But with the inevitability of the global pandemic, they learned to create strategies to work on a somehow low-tech environment, although there are actually significant change in our ICT capability in the country. So with that, actually, when we talk about virtual engagement, I have noted the interesting side of having virtual reference assistants, which I mentioned here, virtual reference assistants as frontliners. So let me introduce to you, I've been browsing through and asking from academic librarians here in Western Visayas on what they had. And some of them actually, I've known them for quite some time. So again, I mentioned Henry Luce III Library here in Iloilo City has Bertha, named after Anna Bertha Huger, who is the first librarian of Central Philippine University. She served since from 1910 to 1940. Another interesting persona here is Dolly. Dolly is the virtual reference assistant of Capiz State University main campus in Rojas City in Capiz. It's another province. Dolly is named after the first librarian in Capsu, who is Dolores. Her real name is Dolores. Another interesting person or virtual reference assistant persona is Lisa. Lisa stands for Lacsonian Information Service Assistant. This is in Bacolod City. They also created a virtual reference assistant to serve their users. Another one is Nena, which stands for New Normal Reference Assistant. But actually, she's named after the former representative of the first district of Capiz, was also the chair, was before the chair of the House Committee on Education. So Nena, or they call her as Doña Nena, actually had a very significant role in education, in developing education, not only in Capiz, but in the Philippines. Another interesting persona from Negros Occidental is Ola. Ola is stands for Online Learning Library Assistant. She's a virtual reference assistant of Carlos Helado Memorial College in Negros Occidental. And there's another VRA that's also serving another college, that's St. Therese Maritime College, that's Trescia. And lastly, I'd like to introduce this interesting group of virtual assistants from West Visayas State University. They seem to be like a family because they have a lot of campuses, starting with the one in the middle, Bresciano. GRACIANO stands for General Reference Access and Information Assistance in Networks Online. That's quite a long name, basically because it is named after the building of the WVSU main library, Graciano Lopez Haina, a national hero, as we may all know. Also part of the team is CLORA. C stands for the College of Medicine, and the whole acronym actually says College of Medicine Library Online Reference Assistant. That's for their College of Medicine. For Himamaylan campus, which is in Negros, they have Gina. Gina, this is Gina. And for Haniway campus, they have Jasila, which is an acronym for Haniway Campus Interactive Library Assistant. There is also DINS, I think this is DINS, which stands for Digital New Normal Services, the Virtual Reference Assistant of Calino Campus. And then there's TIA for Pototan Campus. And so this is the whole family of virtual reference assistants. Why am I highlighting all these virtual reference assistants? As we may all know, their persona is mainly interacting in Facebook page. So in a country like the Philippines with about 78 million users of Facebook, roughly our population is more than 100 million. Facebook indeed is one of the social media platforms that can connect users. So we use that as a way to engage our users. How engaging are these virtual reference assistants? Taking the case of Henry Louis III Library's Chat Bertha, which was created somewhere in July. It started basically, Henry Louis III Library Facebook page was there for quite some time with about 1,000 followers. But having Bertha on board as a real persona, as of October, that there was a sudden increase actually from 1,000 to close to 6,000 library followers, or Henry Louis III Library Facebook page followers. And the highest reach of engagement is more than 37,000, which was never achieved before the presence of the virtual reference assistants. Of course, the need has been increasing, but having a persona, I'm also comparing the statistics of those libraries without virtual reference assistant, and it shows that having a real kind of a persona like Chat Bertha, Hello Dolly, Chat Nena, Ask Clora, it made really a difference. So the same thing with Graciano. Graciano actually has been existing as a Facebook page since 2016, but it was just reborn in August. And there's an interesting catch about that. But right now, I just wanted to show the engagement reach. So these universities have about 10 to 14,000 population. And this is the number of reach they have. 3,000 is actually pretty significant. I will be showing a bit on the messaging and the real interaction later. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to highlight is that Facebook users cuts across all ages, from baby boomers to alpha generation. I just rather say baby boomers, but if you try to look at this analytics or statistics of social media reach of both pages, you can see that it spreads across all ages that are available or allowed in a social media site, from as low as 13 years old to more than 65 years old. The concentration, I recognize the fact that most of the users are age 18 to 34, you could even say up to 44. Basically, because these are the number of students, this is the age, the first bracket, the highest one are number of are the students. And the ones in the second brackets are most likely faculty. So actually the first one are roughly the younger faculty here in the university as well. So, but the point is, it cuts across all generations. So a lot of people are still in Facebook, comparatively speaking. And when we talk about website or blog sites or Twitter, so hence they use this website. Well, okay, let me share the lighter side of the library's work for online support and engagement. This is one, I just did a screenshot of this. By serendipity, the online platform became more engaging and it reached both pages, Bresciano and Enriluza Third Library, when one of the followers created the story of these two virtual reference assistants, Bertha and Bresciano. So the surge of the reach that went from 100 engagement before Graciano and Bertha was matched was actually significant from 1st of August to the last week of August, because from 1,000 followers or 100 reach to it reached to 14,000 reach, and that was quite interesting. And what I mentioned here is that in marketing, we wanted to catch the flicker. So goes the marketing of libraries. If you try to notice how good the reach is, so just with 13 hours after sharing the post, there were 500 shares. I can't see the number of engagement. This is not my Facebook page, but having 500 people to like it, to see it, and 500 shares, it's quite unusual for the usual library engagement that we do. So the two libraries entertained this hype to get people to see better option for browsing Facebook page. If it just taking as an example the posts of Bertha, if you try to notice those related to the promotion of the library website and the virtual about their orientation and their services and their collection, although they are in huge number, they're already significant, having a range of 1,000 to 2,000 or close to 3,000 reach. But with the swap of love letters between the two fictional characters of virtual reference assistants, there was a really surge of increase to 44,000 users. So we thought we'll play a bit of it. They played a bit of it because Facebook pages of libraries are entertaining, can also be entertaining, but they are safer grounds. And we know that we have thought well, they know that they have thought well what they're going to present there. And so probably we can do the same in our libraries, thinking about that. And this fiction cap was also captured by a local newspaper. This fictional Quarren Fling, they called it Quarren Fling. It was also the users who did that. And so the value of this is that it added promotion of the library. As if you notice, it has been mentioned in the last part of the post of the PLAI News. They said, adapting to the new normal, both virtual libraries aim to respond on the information or research needs of students and faculty, even if the learning method this school year goes remote or online. This was before some of the universities were still just about to start their classes then. Also, the swap of love letters between these two virtual reference assistants caught the attention of Iloilo City government. So for us, it's Iloilo City government. It's a credible voice. People go there to get reliable information, and having the Iloilo City government Facebook page to promote or to notice the pages of these two libraries was actually a good impact. And I may just say that this swap of love letters may just be a spin, but the librarians behind Bertha and Bresciano made it meaningful. The posts that they did in virtual in Facebook page are actually a way of promoting their services, Bertha mentioning about the scanning services, and Graciano mentioning about the OPAC and some of the things about how they serve the users, and also making some citations, proper citations, when they talked about a particular idea that they borrowed from somewhere else. For us, it's kind of a form of information. For me, it's a form of information literacy that they were able to create. We'll debate the tension from the adverse effects of Corona. Students created those fun arts and fictional characters, but the essence of this always goes back to learning support through VRA. I know this is not definitely the most engaging platform that we have, or a rather engaging way. Some virtual presence in different parts of the country has been doing more than that, or creating a different one. But basically, for us, this is a good starting point, because like as Bertha and Graciano and the rest of the virtual reference assistants have taken their lead, there are more engaging discussions. So taking, for example, the messages received by Henry the Third Library in Facebook page, they ask for 24 days, they have requests. They received more than or close to 800 requests here. Well, basically, for learning support, it's more of a request for scanned copy of books, request for resources, and request for instructions on how to use the databases. But basically, I say that this is quite significant interaction. And as I mentioned, many libraries embrace the use of social media platforms in information and reference service delivery. If you try to see here Graciano's post, they also try to be as diverse as possible with their library posts in Facebook page. So from instructions on how to scan the services, guide on how to use online services through a video, or introducing new websites or resources, that created an impact for library users as a way of supporting them. And if you try to notice a significant reach or engagement, they could reach up to more than 8,000 followers, and the engagement is about 1,300 organic engagement. Aside from CPU and West Visayas State Universities, I'm also aware that some libraries open other channels to to be used, so that users can ask questions or request for services and access to resources. Taking the case of John B. Lacson system, as I mentioned a while ago, they have LISA. It operates as a virtual reference assistance service through the website. And for requests, they use Google Form as well as I always mention, I can't help but say that for developing countries like the Philippines, the transformation is different. I don't want to say we're behind, but it's just different. And a lot of this transformation is about change management, innovation, and learning on the part of the librarians. What we see as virtual reference services or online learning support or virtual reference assistance enjoyed by the students actually is just the tip of the iceberg. Behind that, there were issues on what needs to be changed in the policy, which is a library management concern, or the director of libraries concern. There are also considerations of the budget, staff skills, changes in the schedule, availability of resources, the availability of ICT facilities, and privacy issues and ethics. There's more than that. But basically, I know everyone has been facing this, and we just need to deal with this in our own way. Here in Western Visayas, they did it on their own, not really on their own, because there were a lot of collaborations that were done. But one of the important things where I personally have engaged and thought of to be very useful before we embarked on providing online support and developing this virtual reference service was retooling skills to meet the emerging needs. So it didn't happen. All these things, virtual reference services, the fame of the VRAs, the engagement of the VRAs, it didn't happen overnight. It was quite well thought, well planned, well communicated um, project. Okay, so aside from the one-shot training, behind that there were a lot of follow-up that were done. Also for librarians to be able to change their services, we did a couple of workshop. I was one of those who luckily was able to participate and join them in their journey. So there were several workshops done for a week, for 3 days, and so on. And aside from that, we also incorporated mentoring. Like me and some library directors were involved with small groups discussing and guiding them on how to do until such time some of them became independent. And on my end, I was always encouraging everyone to do research because conducting research and publishing it or just doing research to enhance the services could make them learn more and learn things by heart. Also, I'm a believer that we just don't need to be passive learners. So everything that was done, because we are also short of time, we always put knowledge to work. Take, for example, the capacity building activity or training that was done for Henry Louis III Library. Part of it was actual development of the policies, creation of the schedule, conceptualization of the marketing plan, and so on. So so issues are sorted out right there and then, so that when we leave the room, the training room, we are ready to work on it and we know that we have done it. Also, use of technology. I'm always big on hands-on. We cannot just say, okay, please give me the PowerPoint presentation after, which happens all the time. Sorry, I don't want to be mentioning that as much as possible, but basically this is a very important aspect. So use of technology, you need to use it yourself. As I mentioned to some of librarians that I'm actually in one of the trainings I conducted, part of it is the development of core technology skills. And one of the librarians that here in the Philippines mentioned to me that she doesn't need to learn much about technology because she has IT people. But I am a believer that if you want to really engage your users, if you want to provide the right services, you need to learn at least the base. You need to have at least a working knowledge of everything. You cannot give what you do not have. And of course, it's always an ongoing assessment. There should always be an ongoing assessment. We need to reflect on what we are doing. Also, as I've mentioned, there's the element of reskilling and upskilling before we embark on the development of this library services. So reskilling is where we trained librarians who have already shown that they have aptitude for learning in a completely new task. So take, for example, catalogers. We have no choice. With the new normal, they needed to be to work as a part of the chat, Bertha, of the virtual reference services. So it's quite new, the way they communicate, the way you put a different image in email, in chat room, that was essential, that needed to be practiced. Here in Western Visayas, that my presentation could just be a very small number of what has been done right now. But basically, a lot has been working on that, and we can learn from each other in this. And this is an evidence that libraries are clearly responding in a positive way, which kept libraries sustainable. The libraries working within its available resources and finding ways to upgrade themselves for librarians, upgrading the images of the library, and um, upgrading the services or the technology driven platforms that has been used, frame narratives of resilience for us. Scholarship has been challenged in the country or anywhere in the world, but libraries step in to support, which is the most beautiful thing. And the work continues, and there are still other avenues that can be explored. I've been telling the groups here that we still need to deal more on research data management. We need to work more if we wanted to amplify research support. We need to make the faculty understand the impact of publication. We need to guide them on how they're going to publish, on how they're going to store their data, or use open access resources, and use reliable sources. But this is not the end. This is just the beginning. My presentation is very simple, but as I've mentioned, this is an attestation that that libraries are sustainable and resilient. And librarians are essential catalysts for library transformation. Madam Bukit niya salamat. This ends my presentation.
Hello! So thank you so much, Dr. Reza, no? Um, hello, nagulat kayo? Ako itong lumitaw. So, um, let's proceed, no? Just with we're waiting for Ma'am Amy, no? Pero syempre, Plai is ready for this moment. Okay, so hi, Ma'am Reza.
Hi, everyone, and hello, Donna. So good to see you here, and so good to see you all. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity to share a bit of what we're doing here in Western Visayas. So yeah, about my presentation, I cut short some of those parts, but yeah, I hope so. I hope this part of this Q&A would give clarifications to whatever I missed in my presentation.
Of course. Definitely po, no? So, syempre, this is the part, no, that we will be entertaining questions na for our participants, I'm sure, no? Pero, nakikita ko sa chat, sorry, nagulat kayo, guys, no? But of course, yes, but of course, syempre, we'll proceed with the question and answer portion natin, no? So, reminders again to all our participants, please type your name, the region, the question in the Q&A section, as we will not be again entertaining questions sa ating chat box, no? But if you see in the Q&A section na you have a similar question to what has already been posted by our participants, just please upvote that question by clicking the thumbs up sign so that that question can be prioritized. But if ever, no, the time we can't answer all the questions, our speakers will try to answer them directly later sa ating Q&A box. Okay, so let's proceed. Let me just check on the questions right now. Okay. Oh, there. So, see, we have a question here. Ito yung mga nasa top po natin, no, ng mga questions. All right. So we have a question here from our anonymous attendee. What's your take on having a real librarian as the online representative of the library versus VRA? This would also uplift the perception of the librarian as a professional rather than an invisible figure behind an abstract concept of a library.
Okay, yeah, so thank you. That was a really well thought question. It's really interesting to answer that. So I'd rather not say we're replacing librarians, because the truth is, in every virtual reference assistant, actually behind that are the librarians in the library. So I would say virtual reference assistant performs its own functions. A real librarian has its own functions as well. So in a social media platform, especially that we're doing things online right now, it's so hard to have everyone connected all together. One consideration with our will be our bandwidth, and since we are most of us are doing work from home, it's kind of a challenge. That's the reason why we also set up a virtual reference assistant. The second benefit that I can see having a virtual reference assistant is we put a lighter image. Some because what we are thinking when we talk about online support in general is it should cut across generation. Some library users would probably like to have a conversation with the real librarian. Some are also hesitant to have a librarian talk to them or communicate with them. So, and especially for the younger generation, self-ens men. But yeah, we cater to a lot of users because they thought Bertha is different. Take, for example, me and Bertha. If I would have been Bertha, not everyone will talk to me. Okay, it would just be a few people. Let's face it. I've been doing that in libraries and subject librarian before. And with having Bertha, it has expanded the reach. Okay, so like, and also one thing interesting about that is they took a lighter side when it's a virtual reference assistant. But the thing is, it doesn't replace librarians because basically this is also, I think, an answering another question there is if virtual reference assistants are artificial intelligence, are using artificial intelligence. A bit only of artificial intelligence, but the one running everything is a librarian, from creating FAQs, auto responses, what are we going to input as our response. These are well thought responses made by librarians. The way Bertha acts, the way or any other virtual reference acts, it's actually still the librarians are doing that. So basically, we are not replaced. We are just giving options, especially with the new normal, that not everything would be the same as before. So librarians are always there. Virtual reference assistants or add-ons. And what I wanted to share to everyone is that one size does not fit all. It may fit in with some of the libraries here in Western Visayas or in some libraries in different parts of the country. But I can actually say that's all. Everyone should have a VRA. What I would advise is probably you need to study your audiences. You need to know where they are and what fits in to cater to your library services. That's the most important thing here, because our role primarily is never replaced. Our role is to amplify our presence. I hope I answered his or her question.
Yes, yes. And I love that. We need to amplify our presence right now, no? But of course, syempre, we have to take note also of ano yung, what we have, our capability of doing this, no? Syempre, kung ano yung resources that we have, no? Yeah, I love that. So, another question here, no? This is from Jesse George Brazal. Great presentation, Dr. Alenzuela, sabi niya. Jesse here from Bicol region. According to him, what's your thought on the availability of virtual assistants even after office hours? For the samples that you provided, are they usually available? So also, how do you handle the inappropriate messaging, no, within your VRA, mga virtual assistants? No? Are these handled by librarian or are they AI controlled?
Okay. So yeah, that's another great question. Some things that I missed to point out in my presentation. So first thing, about how we,
About the office hours, are
office
they
hours.
available?
So yeah, well, ideally, which worked in other libraries, we were very ambitious. We wanted 24/7. But
All
again,
right.
you need to look at your organization. That's a very organizational thing. Okay, so you need to see how many staff we have. We don't want to exhaust them as well. We need to take care of our colleagues in the library. So it depends on your capability. That's what I wanted to say. How many librarians are there? You need to consider. The tricky side is actually the scheduling. Madugo yung scheduling actually, because you need to designate people and when are they available, what happens if there would be shifts, so there's plan B. But that thing is that's where scheduling comes in. Again, so my answer is just that, check first if you have capability of 24/7, or your capability is just to serve 8 to 5. It depends on the organization again. If you're a one-man librarian, you're not really expected to be there 24/7. A chat platform could be synchronous and asynchronous. On the other question on how
The inappropriate messaging.
yeah, the inappropriate, we have that. So a while ago I mentioned about the policy. Part of the policy that we created in our social media is that we have the right to turn down or to block those which are kind of a nuisance in the website. We have dealt with some questions, especially in the chat room, are not as respectful, but you need to have a high tolerance. So we would say you need to have a high threshold tolerance when you're asking questions, and we need to put ourselves like, maybe this people who are requesting are in time pressure. They have really a lot of assignments. So that happens, but we exercise tolerance at some point. But for those which are a nuisance, you can really qualify. We have criteria of what a nuisance is, and we explicitly put that in our website as part of the policy on social media engagement. And all the librarians who are working with that are also fully aware. That was part of the capacity building, to inform them what is in our policy, what are our policies for the users, and so on. And worst case scenario, of course, there's always a hierarchy. Who is the head, or handling reference service? And yeah, we have actually a group. We don't answer immediately because we need to reconsider. Very basic. A rule is, don't reply when you're angry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
That's Thank you so much for that one, no? I think very important, no, talaga meron tayong guidelines in place before we really implement something, lalo na this one, no? Para same page yung buong ating library, yung mga nag-i-implement, yung mga humaharap for that service, no? Thank you so much with that one. And also I think we'll have this last question, another one with a lot of upvote. This is from Good day. I'm from Region 11. I'd like to ask the following questions. Dami pala siya. How do the VRAs function in a Facebook page? So may separate Facebook ba sila aside from the main library Facebook page? And if, for example, can you also give them an advice on how they will make their FB pages more engaging aside from introducing the VRA, if ever they have that one also?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was a great question. So yeah, how do virtual reference assistant function in a Facebook page?
Yes.
So it depends. Again, we go back actually to the policy of the institution. If the institution will allow us to be more independent, like have a separate Facebook page, that's fine. But if the institution says we need to have one Facebook page, there could be a bit of a bargaining on that. But in cases where they would not allow, we should follow. We always follow the goals and objectives of the mother institution. So are the policies. We cannot deviate from that. But on my end, personally, when I'm asked whether it's better to have a Facebook page for the library apart from the institution or the college, I'd rather say yes, please, because you have more freedom. You could be more admin and that you could focus more on the library stuffs. So essentially, I would encourage having a separate Facebook page or any social media site for the library. At the same time, it also creates an identity for the library, because before we just use the generic name of the university, like West Visayas State University. There was no much engagement. But when we used like the word Graciano, or we have Dina, Jocela, there was more engagement, because people think, I even lurk at some of the pages or the messages. They feel like when they're answered by this virtual reference assistants or by the page, they thought they're talking to the people. Like they would say, thank you, Bertha, heart, heart, heart. So LO, those kind of things. So it becomes more fun, which engages users. On the second question, would you give some advice on how to make our library pages more engaging for users and followers, aside from VRAs? So examples that I had was mainly about VRAs, but in the end, as I've mentioned, uh, the website. If a lot of people are also in the website, that could be another angle where you could look into. Actually, so we just use social media as like a first stop, because most of the people technically reside in Facebook. So
Mm-hmm.
we just use Facebook as like, again, the facade, but behind that there are actually a lot of programs. Like recently they did um, they produced videos. We do webinars as well. We do webinars only for the faculty or for the students or specific colleges here to address their needs. That's another thing. We do information literacy. We have other we expand every now and then. We have a marketing group, or I suggest for some libraries that I'm volunteering or I'm working with, they create their own marketing team to expand their services. We don't stop with a virtual reference assistant in the chat platform. We are thinking of adding like subject guides, which are asynchronous. We also engage in emails. We have, as I mentioned, videos for different things. We have contests. We still have a lot of things that we can do. Yeah, the most is for me, the thing that I can encourage everyone is try to collaborate in your region. There's always power in numbers. So I'm always big on networking, and those who had experience, you can always ask from them. I think at the end of in the PowerPoint presentation that I shared with the PLAI team, I think my email address is also there. I would be happy. There's always room for me to collaborate with everyone. Just ideas. Actually, the ideas that I got are not only happened overnight as well. This was an exchange of ideas with other networks, both here in the Philippines and abroad. And we were asking, how can we do it, and what's the best thing that we can do? So for me, to make it more engaging to the followers, make it more diverse, make it more attractive, but first and foremost, by the way, listen to them. What attracts their attention? Look at their comments. See where they can be. Even a research on that would also be very helpful. I think I had a very long answer for that. And for the rest of the questions, I'll be diligently answering you here. I will just be typing the questions later.
Yes, so thank you so much actually for that question. You have a lot already no na na-share. But of course again to our participants, it's sure no talagang sasagot uh, Dr. Reza will try to answer your question directly in our Q&A button. Now I think we have Ms. Amy back. Ma'am Amy, hi! You're back.
Masaya, tatlo na tayo.
Parang reunion lang no, ng PLAI Working Committee.
Of course. So, all right, I'm giving this back to Ma'am Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Alright, thank you, Riza. Sorry guys for that. Napaka-galing talagang kumaini ng ating internet service provider. So, thank you, Donna, for being there and doing the job for me. Riza, we will now, well, first of all, it's nice to see you again. Raisa and I go way back. We were classmates in
Yeah,
grad school.
we're
We see each
classmates.
other occasionally, so but it's nice to see you again. All right, now we'll be awarding our certificate of appreciation to Dr. Valenzuela. The certificate reads the Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines awards this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Reza Valenzuela for being a resource keeper during the PLAI National Congress 2020 and General Assembly. With the theme Libraries as Catalysts in the New Normal Environment, Changes, Reforms, Transformations, held online from the 24th to the 27th of November, even 27th day of November 2020. Signed by the Executive Vice President Elisa V. Garcia and the PLAI President Emma M. Lee. Thank you, Rai, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in Iloilo. Mas gusto ko ako ang pupunta sa Iloilo. Alright. Thank you, Raisa. Okay, before we proceed to the next part of the program, let us hear from our friends from First and Finance Technology Corporation. Thank you, first and finest. I can see some inquiries already in our chat box. So if you're interested, feel free to contact First and Finest. I think they have their contact details posted in that video, or you can contact them via their website. Now we shall hear from another sponsor, Philsoft Technologies Group Incorporated. Here they are. Sure. Thank you, Philsoft Technologies. We hope that you will support us again in the next PLAI Congress. How's everyone doing? Kamusta na? Naalala niyo pa ba ang mga nangyari sa mga nakarang araw nung PLAI Congress? So I hope the learnings that you had for this online Congress will stay with you for a long time. And ako naman, no, I was very glad to hear about the initiatives and projects of our keynote speaker, no, Honorable De Venecia, regarding libraries and librarians. We also heard from the former PLAI president, Michael Pinto, about his general research showing that librarians are adapting to change due to the pandemic. We heard too from the Honorable Yolanda Granda, who gave us updates regarding the career progression of librarians. But I think the main learning of this entire Congress is that although in the time of pandemic, libraries take a back seat, we have come to understand that we can still provide service to our community, but we are also now understanding that there are some coping strategies that we need to understand and we need to do so that we can push through in these difficult times. I really hope that we can all come through this pandemic better, stronger librarians and with improved understanding of ourselves, our role in our milieu, and everyone around us and everything around us. Okay. Oh, so please be reminded that our GA will no longer be broadcasted in YouTube. It will only be made available here in Zoom. To view the minutes and the agenda of the General Assembly, please check out your Moodle. And we will have a short break before we proceed to the General Assembly. Let us now hear from our sponsors. The Philippine Librarians Association Incorporated, in partnership with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, through the National Committee on Libraries and Information Services and the National Library of the Philippines, would like to thank the following generous sponsors of this PLAI Online Congress 2020. Platinum sponsors: McGraw-Hill, Ex Libris Asia Pacific Private Limited, and CNE Adaptive Learning Solutions. Gold sponsors: Electronic Information Solutions Incorporated, Megatex Philippines Incorporated for De Gruyter, and Oxford University Press. Silver sponsors: Airbooks Corporation, Family Search, Megatex Philippines Incorporated for Wiley, Bloomsbury, and World Signet, PhilSoft Technologies Group Incorporated, and First and Finest Technology Corporation. Bronze sponsors: Weissman's Books Trading Incorporated, Taylor and Francis, LiveTech Source Philippines Incorporated, and Phoenix Educational Service Incorporated. Thank you for your support.